Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, in this short video, we're just going to go back to this case of this British couple who were found dead in a small village. Andrew and Dawn Searle, found dead in a small village in France. And this really is, a complete mystery. It's a very, very tragic, whatever's happened. But the BBC, I'm going to read you this article because there's not been much update. I don't think there's any more information. It was revealed that cause of death of Dawn, who is Andrew's wife. It was blunt force trauma to the back of her head. And of course, she was found in the garden, partially dressed, surrounded by jewellery and cash, apparently. And then Mr. Searles had very sadly this is what we don't know. It looked as if he had self-deleted because he was found hanged in the house. However, no murder weapon has been found, so it ostensibly looked like it could be red rum self-deletion, but no murder weapon has been found. And it hasn't been officially declared as that. So, of course, there was some consternation about Andrew's professional life, where he's supposed to have looked into bank accounts of, quite sort of sinister people, though other people say that everything he did was anonymous, so he wouldn't have been known about it. But that's one thing, sort of theory that's flying around. Another one is that they had financial problems, or that he had financial problems. There's reports of him being very distressed the day before. Was there some kind of even marital problems? I mean, the thing is, although they seemed, to all intents and purposes, as far as their friends were concerned and people around in the village, seemed a happy couple, we never know, do we, what's going on behind closed doors. So what makes it a complete mystery is the lack of a murder weapon. So if Dawn she was killed by blunt force trauma to the back of the head, but nothing has been found that shows, that could have done that. So in a typical sort of red rum suicide, then Andrew wouldn't have bothered, would he, to have hidden the murder weapon if he was planning on doing something to himself. Now, of course, there's another theory, which I think all the theories are as good as each other, or make as much sense as each other. Because Andrew was spotted on CCTV buying lottery tickets at some point just a couple of hours before, this whole thing was found, by a neighbour who called round with the dog. Now, was that to try and give himself an alibi? Was he initially going to try and sort of cover up what he'd done, and then he decided he couldn't live with himself? Is the neighbour, I hate to, you just think, well, what's the circumstances around the neighbour turning up there? Apparently the neighbour said they grew concerned because he didn't appear to walk his dog, which normally I take it they met up to walk their dogs. And I think it was a he, very traumatic scene for them to find, first of all, Dawn, lying in the garden, at the entrance to the house, deceased, and then I presume finding Andrew then in the house. Okay, so this is a report by the BBC who've been there. So for the final 15 kilometres, 9.3 miles of the journey from Toulouse to the hamlet of Les Pesquières, that should be Pesquières, isn't it? Maybe it is just Peckies. I thought it had an S in it, but maybe I'm wrong. You travel on narrow, winding roads through hilly, dense woodlands. Without a reliable GPS system, you can get lost very quickly, especially at night. I expected the home of Andrew and Dawn Searle, the British couple found dead earlier this month, to be remote. That's the suggestions from the photos of the crime scene I have seen. But I was surprised when I arrived to find it well within shouting distance of several homes. That's why you can't beat actually going to a place. You see things on the news or, photos, etc. You can't beat actually going to a scene to get an accurate impression. So I was surprised, yeah. So it's an important detail because Dawn's partially naked body was discovered outside the front of the house on Thursday morning last week, and the prosecutor in charge of the case said she had severe head wounds caused by a blunt weapon, and any screams would have been heard very clearly by neighbours. So it gets curiouser and curiouser, isn't it? So mysterious. So I'm presuming, does it mean this? Is this the front door? Was she literally just outside there in the garden? Her husband's body was found hanging inside the back of the house, and the prosecutor says no weapon has been found. There's no obvious sign of a burglary nor evidence that Andrew put up a fight. Well, that's right, he had no defensive wounds and no evidence of an sex crime. So a friend discovered Dawn's body when she came round to the house with her dog. The couple had 2 big dogs of their own, and they often walked with the friend or several other dog owners I talked to in the quiet hamlet. One woman, Benedicta, said the couple were absolutely adorable. We would often meet like this, simply walking our dogs around the village. We are very shocked, of course we are, she said. So that's one of the neighbours. Lydia, a butcher, sells her produce at local markets with her husband. Their property overlooks the Searles' home. Just a fallow field separates them. They were a great couple who smiled a lot, and since I once lived in England, I was able to talk to them in English, she told me. They were well integrated, and every year they invited everyone over for a party. But not everyone I approached wanted to talk. Their looks gave away this is a very difficult moment for this rural community in the glare of a criminal investigation. Well, it must be awful, mustn't it, for them? The railroad crossing next to the village doesn't have safety barriers, just a stop sign, which tells you how little traffic there is here normally. Now you can feel the presence of the Gendarmerie, the branch of the French military which is leading the Scotland. A large car with tinted windows drove past me slowly, and inside were 4 stony-faced officers from the Toulouse Homicide and Organised Crime branch. There is no question locals are scared. Several officers from the Gendarmerie photographed our car and asked to see our ID cards and urged us to be discreet. They said the residents were frightened and that their presence was partly to reassure them. There is bright yellow Gendarmerie tape strapped to the front gate of the Searles' home. The dogs are gone. Where are the dogs? I hope the dogs are okay. And their swimming pool has a cover over it. 2 large candles have been lit in the driveway, and a leaflet taped to the gate has a phone number for anyone who feels they need psychological counselling or moral support provided by local social services. The same leaflet has been taped to a community board in the centre of the hamlet. So this must be their... So this is the gate with the Gendarmerie tape. The Searle couple retired to this region 5 years ago. That's about the third different. I've heard 6 years, 10 years. Anyway, 5 years ago, another mailboxes in the hamlet indicate they are not the only expatriates in the region. This isn't surprising. There are no official statistics, but in the time I have been based in Toulouse, Foreign Office staff have told me at various times they believe around 30,000 Brits live full-time in the southwest, making it the biggest British expat population in France outside of Paris. And on top of that, tens of thousands more have holiday homes in this region called Occitanie, which is one of the fastest growing areas of France, attracting people from not just the UK, but Belgium, the Netherlands and Paris. What attracts them here is the quality of life, wide open spaces, relatively cheap property, and achingly beautiful countryside and architecture. The nearby town of Villefranche-de-Rouergue has one of the most beautiful medieval stone arcade-lined central squares in a region teeming with them. In summer, an open-air market in the square is crammed with holidaymakers, including many Brits carrying woven baskets filled with local produce. Various conspiracy theories circulate about how they died. I've been asked about them by countless French national TV and radio media outlets, but all we know for sure is the prosecutor and his team are still trying to determine, as he reiterated to me on Wednesday night, whether the tragedy resulted from a domestic crime followed by self-deletion or involved a third party. Oh, there's the candles that have been left. Ever since the deaths, I've been speaking to the prosecutor leading the case, who revealed to me late this week that he was handing over the investigation to a senior judge in Montpellier with more resources available. And I asked him, does that mean he was leaning towards the idea that the couple had both been red-runged? He replied he was not ruling anything out. He added, if they were murdered, gosh, sorry, it just slips out the word sometimes, and it goes to trial, he would lead the prosecution. Dr. Remy Sevigny, a psychologist who answers the counselling hotline from the leaflets, told me that so far around a dozen people had called in for some sort of support. They were all local, he said, and all knew the couple personally. They were all either frightened or injured. Okay, so that's it, little update. I'll be back with any more news about this case. Thank you.